It all starts in Lin territory surrounded by a mountain, known as the Ga, where there are kingdoms. First, the supremacy of morning, and the second, the Republic of Ra, where just the great fortune teller Shu looks at the omen he had already predestined. Although he talks to General Kai as he is heading to the place where the treasure would fall. First would be close to the border between the two kingdoms. A few minutes later, they already managed to get to that where the treasure had been, and Kai moved because they have several wipers that would help them in the fight. Although when they were starting to pack them up, it appeared Rihai announced Dio, the reign of morning, will keep that treasure. What the general did not like at all, who asks you to deliver a Lin and warns his opponent the minimum you should do is to introduce yourself, since this treasure, your body lights up, and when a burst power is attacked, shoots out, granting him at that moment a warm armor, and although at that time sees how other warriors arrive in morning and warn them that everything will fall because in their case have a stronger conviction than all of them. So when attacked, falls without problem. Talk about their sword and ends up with 4 of those attackers disappearing in the sky. But at that time, see that another treasure was climbing the sky, and they do not understand what is going on. While Shu is over, as his prediction was true, and even though 2 rags had never fallen in just 1 month, this time it does come out, but he warns Kai that he has fallen to the land, abandoned, and it would not be useful, so they must return. After that pair to leave, their partner, Ren, replies that this will surely upset the king, and Shu explains that it was not only a second rag, but had a sign that has never been seen before, so they have to go immediately before anyone else comes for that treasure. In another territory, a boy named B fails to shoot his prey, and Fright ends up being helped by L, who does eliminate him. While near their adult, try not to make some children more problems as they always want to be playing. After a few minutes, all meet again in the village, where they receive Hunter, and the leader of the village apologizes because they only got 1 small prey, something that disappoints them a lot because that season was being quite bad, and they had very little food. Although at that time, see something strange in the sky, and how it approaches towards where they even have some children to jump, avoiding being impacted because the treasure was falling very hard. So all onlookers come to that place without understanding very well what it was. The village leader is surprised that a bunch of fall into its territory, while beats that treasure because it destroyed his house there, is frightened to see that it is lit up. But at that moment, the doctor alone confirms that it is a pig because a long time ago he saw one, and this one can contain food like the chef, and sometimes buy in the market. What everyone gets excited about, think that there would be a great feast. Everyone. A few minutes later, Shumira from a hill to the site where the treasure fell, and he is that there is still a villa in a place so far away, tells Ren that apparently in this place we're doing some kind of ritual for the arrival of this treasure, so that first it is best to observe and analyze what is happening. While on the other hand, I told the leader that they had already left enough time under the stake to that bastard and should be able to open it. So they begin to strike the darkness, try to open it, and at that moment Elsa sees something moving inside, but no one makes the effort to listen to her, and in a sec the gap opens up as our main character comes out, furiously complaining to him a bit that he was in there boiling, but some children, they try to bite him thinking he was food, and his astonished look at a person coming out of the treasure, something that no one had ever imagined before, and he thinks that can mean that. A few minutes later, our prota talks to everyone in the village, explaining that he does not remember nothing of his name or why he came in that place, but he does know that comes from more over the wall, and everyone starts laughing at him because that would never be possible, as they explain that after the wall that protects his world is nothing more. But our main character replies that he is sure it does come from there, and looking at the mountain range where it indicates that the wall is coming, decides to start walking. While Shu hears in amazement what our prota, he said, and thinks that could be true, since for a long time the piglets were seeds sent to them by their god, so that it quickly points to our, as it will eliminate air. Although Shula replies that someone is coming, and see how a man activates giant armor while asking the villagers to give him the rakuho, although when he sees that they have already opened it, he asks them where the treasure is, because if they do not, it would kill the village, and they all point to our main character, because that is what you said about that place. The bandit does not believe them because it is impossible that something like this would happen, and Very starts shooting, destroying some of the guns, while he respects that they must give him the treasure. At that time, everyone begins to flee, while Atle runs to your home, since he must his father's legacy, while our prota goes with the bandit, telling him what was in that staircase, and needs me to help you get through the wall, turn to the place where it came from. But at that time, the bandit attacks him, believing that he is simply making fun of him. Although at that time, Adel arrives garment for our and shows a blend, what worries everyone in the village, because if she activates it and gets out of control, she could die. But Atle responds that his father was the sheriff and left him the legacy, so you must protect them. At that time, wears the bracelet and transforms into a gay brie, so it begins to fight against that bandit, including those in his village. While our prota asks him what those giant things are, the doctor replies that they are bracelet match the user's conviction, giving him a powerful armor, being that is the pillar of their belief, and this is what call it Rihei. But at this time, see how the bandit cat girl, as she is no match for her conviction to get what they hide, so he asks you to the girl to take off her brace, as if he does not, he is going to die. But when she tries, the man does not allow it, and the doctor worries. His man knows that if Atlas removes the bracelet, no one else could use it, since the beans are linked to your user and can only be used again when the bearer dies. But our Prota does not plan to let her die and run to his chest, because there must be something to help her by finding one of the bracelets that were hidden behind the seat, and tells them to all that you can help them, but he is already asking me to give it to him in order to help. And our Prota replies that he is going to use it himself, something that worries them too much, because not everyone can survive and power consume them. But our Prota replies that he is confident that he is quite strong, so that bracelet starts to get his armor. Then, and I am also in a pretty strong wave of power, and everyone looks in amazement at our Prota, who advances thanking the girl, protecting them, but promises that will be entrusted with from now on, and then challenges Bandit to reach him as it begins to run. What amazes everyone, but when the Bandit thinks he has it in his sight, Impact is surprised because his blows have no effect, and it is as if I do not have a conviction. But on the other hand, our Prota, without knowing how he does, begins to launch a burst of blows as it gets excited, thinking that even though he does not know how he does it, feels he has a lot of experience, and ends up destroying his armor. The Bandit, who falls to the ground, and after the fight, he leaves full of fear, but Ren looks very asking him how it is possible that the Brahe disappeared at hand, as I have never seen anything like this before. While everyone in the village, they ask him who he is, and he is beat, tells them that it was just a fly, came to bring destruction at home. But our Prota replies that he can be called from now on Black Arrow. So that is where they got the name of the Black. How creative they are. After a few minutes, everyone asks our that he says his real name, but he replies that he does not know, and transforms again, because it must go, since its objective is the other side of the wall. So he bids farewell, leaving everyone in the village very confused. And at the same time, that Shu together with Ren begin to follow him. After a few hours, of our Prota falls to the ground, very exhausted, because he feels he is not making much progress, and can't take it anymore because of hunger. Although at that time, Pimp say hello, telling him it was awesome, could wear the armor for 5 hours straight, as they can normally only do so for about 2 hours maximum. But our Prota asks who they are, so Shu and Ren show up, while being asked really comes from the other side of the wall. What our Prota confirms to you, although he explains that he remembers nothing about it, and Shu replies that many do not believe him. Also arrive to the limits of the wall may take several months and requires scaling thousands of times its size. Although our main character, when listening to this, thinks it is a threat and decides to hit him, although at that time Shu detiene Ren so that it would not hurt him, and he understands that he would not trust in it, but the gives him something to eat and promises to accompany him until the end of this route, as it has a lot of sensitivity in it. But on the other hand, I would like him to wait a few days to understand a little more about the sky and its stars, since fortune teller like him requires divine instruction in order to continue. A while later in the village, the doctor checks Adele, confirming that their levels were more stable and only needs rest, stunning them too much as the girl died. Try using a jump. Adele asks him about our Prota, since they should be going to stop because it cannot reach the edge of the wall, although just at that moment, open the door and look on the floor at our main character, who is sleeping, and one and not even children respond that a very strange girl left him in that place. While Ren asks Shu he is sure of what he is going to do, and this one confirms it to him, because they still have a lot of things to discover, even though she warns him not to mention the possibility on the other side of the wall before they, because if they do, they will lose their lives. Just at that moment, stop in front of Kai, who is glad to see them. When he comes back and asks them about the treasure, Shula responds that in one day they will have a report for you, and Kai asks him to be careful because she does not want to see him hurt again. The next day, our Prota sees how children were playing, and Adels arrives, noticing that he has a small wound after the boy's piece of wood was thrown at him for what gives it a small priest, and our Prota thanks Beat for the clothes, as it is quite comfortable. But at that time, Elsa arrives, asking him if he is planning to stay with them, otherwise committed a crime, and ended up being expelled, as this would be right. Wyatt arrived in a cluster, and because of the impact, lost his memories, but our Prota tells them that he can't know, and he already asks him to accompany them on the hunt, since it will receive the information of the village chief in the distance. And after hunting, a small dam points to the village where they live, since it is very small in comparison with all the territory in this world. There they have begun to be strong, because anything can end their lives and cannot leave, as the two regions that are close to them are in a terrible war over what his only option is to survive, and cannot take risks in their village. And present makes many treasure hunters want to come, so they give him some water and food, telling him that he cannot stay with them, and apologize to our Prota, because that is the only thing they can do. Mientras tanto, Shu shows him on a stamp that he had copied to access the wreck, prohibited as they must do so quickly and without being discovered, because they must know many things before before that bandit reports mourning, while on the other hand, the Mourning Palace. Dolly informs about what happened in that land, since a man who claimed was the one who was in the destroyed cluster but he was able to remain alive, which surprised everyone, since this is something that goes against they know. And Grandma enter, telling them that I had already heard that although the noble tried him from approaching a person like Go, who was the shortest, but she simply refuses because this man contained highly desired information for what I would like to learn more about that guy. For if he was able to defeat another armor without taking the life of its bearer, means that in their hands was peace, as they should not die in the struggle. If this would fulfill his dream, at that time promises to do what he can, and a few hours later already talks to the president of the Equi territory, since he needed of their help, by warning them that they do not want a war. Unnecessary. After a few hours in the village, everyone wonders who would actually be our main character when they see a squadron of military personnel arriving, watching General Tyrone, who speaks to them as it orders a search of the entire village, causing that all villagers are very afraid, and the boss asks him why they do this. Tyrone explains that they are looking for the man who arrived in the cluster and will not accept they rebel. The boss replies, this man has already left, and at that moment Tyrone gives the notice to the president to know what to do, although he replies that it is best for him to disappear the village so that the Rika region does not get involved in. So Tyrone decides accept the order and warns the soldiers to destroy everything. At that time, this activates a bracelet and transforms with armor, gigantic, starting to send attacks to home. But at that time, Adel wears his bracelet, try to defend the village because she is in charge of security and will not let them destroy everything and overcome it. Although Tyrone manages to beat her very easily, and he is already scared, goes to the track because he hopes to get another bracelet. What did it achieve? Since he was to another, and after a few seconds, and without thinking, activate, getting a suit of armor for her. This surprises Tyrone, as I did not expect him to have two in this place. That means it is even more dangerous, and that this village should disappear. Although Elsa ends up falling when the weight of the armor destroys part of the ground, and Vid runs scared, looking for shelter. When he reaches a well, he hears that our prota ask why they are making so much noise, since they do not let him rest. This amazes the boy too much. He found himself in this place, and our prota responds, promised Shu that he would stay in this place, but knowing someone else destroying the village, begins to run while his armor, as it will not allow, to destroy the one he has adopted as his village. At the end of our prota manages to give the general a strong blow, while on the other hand Shu follows the oldest and most secret book about treasure, seeing that according to he who comes from the afterlife sleeps at the edge of the earth. Just when at that moment Chammy was a bit strange in front of her, who asked her if she wanted to be registered, as the beginning of that, even though without understanding what he is referring to he decides firm it. While our prota continues to fight Tyrone, which is because it does not succeed, hurt him a lot, although our, with his agility, manages to hit him so many times that he begins to break his bracelet. This astounds Tyrone too much, because he is not dying, and at this moment Shu continue reading because he knows that the village where our main character was the limit of the earth. He warned that when the man of the most there you get self-realization, everyone will be destroyed. Just at that moment the whole village begins to shake, and they see as if from the ground terrifying figure begins to emerge. After a few seconds of confusion, and that everything would fall apart, see as from the middle of the mountain a gigantic ship begins to leave, but on the top of that ship a jump and shouts for help, and they recognize that voice because it is Elsa. On the other hand, in the courtroom of Rekka, King Zu appears for everyone, congratulating Kai for having achieved that treasure that would give them more power before their enemy, for what it ordered, that all the soldiers can match it, and with this everyone gets their armor. Son Ando a little bit here, and because they had armor totally the same, and the Prime Minister tells him that this happens because the will of all of them is the same, which to serve him as king, who also asks Kai what did you do with the other Rakuho, since he knows two of them arrived, and that Shu had gone after him for what you will expect. Soon a report to find out what happened. A while later, Kai interrogates Shu to make him face her about what he was saying, because he does not understand how there was a person inside a network, and that there is now a floating fortress, but Shul says that is what he has seen, and also according to Red in the ancient text, this could mean the end of your world. Kai decides to calm down by asking her to concentrate, because they both have a promise to keep, as they must save Rekka and achieve prosperity, by which he explained, I carry in it, and Shu promises to bring a report to the king soon, not to be disturbed. Our main character talks to Elsa because it was incredible that I could move that ship, and surely with it I would reach the wall much faster, and talking to Shu, knew he would not be able to climb the wall, just to go to the other side, but if he goes with his friends from the village, yes, I could get it. What he already refuses, reminding him that because of him, village had been destroyed. So far, they are beginning to think about what to do. While the village chief talks to Doctor, tells you that our prota seems healthy, but what worries him most were those delusions of coming from beyond the wall. While on the other hand, I saw who talked Tyrone, and he wondered would be I thought since I had been talking talking to General and has a good plan that would save him, so you should treat him like the boss. Minutes later, President gives him his word. Village chief and our prota wakes up when his bracelet is removed, but at that time everything is recorded and does not understand what is going on. The village leader replies that he will be handed over to the president of the region because he promised to get them a more appropriate territory to live. What amazes are, and he already tells her that she should never believe who could live with them. After all, it has caused a few hours after our prota wakes up watching me point a bit at her, ordering him to release him as he could not allow it to be eliminated. Although Beetle says he does not know if executed because the information is that he will be mourned, but Adlet is not willing not to protect the one who saved him. And at that moment, Elsha arrives, telling him that he is only up because they had already lost everything. Although our prota asks Adlet not to take any chance. What are you looking? Go to the other world, but I will not put anyone's life at risk. So he promises that he will not run away, but he does tell Elsa, who must be very attentive, they may be being cheated on, and does not understand why they do not take advantage of the power they now have. Here used to be a small village, but now she is the one who can move that ship, and it is safe to get a place worthy for all those in the village. The next day, Tehran gives the notice they will be leaving to the city where they will meet President and where everyone would start their new life. So Elsha is in charge of moving the ship away from what was once their home, something that if a little to all, enthralls the little ones, since they are going to change their lives. After a few hours, reach the agreed place where R is presented in a cage for the president, who congratulates Tyrone for achieving it. In addition, receive the bling of our prota and tells everyone in the village who no longer have to worry about, for they are going to leave behind all that livestock and will now be able to live in a place full of green pastures and lots of food, since everything that is on the other side of the canyon belongs to them, and you can go take it, something that pleases many in the village. While Elsha asks him what they will do with our prota, but the president explains that he is going to hand him over in mourning, who want to talk to him, so that at that time everyone leaves, and our prota wishes them the best. While Beat asks Tyrone to allow him to join the army because he knows that equally Edel would never forgive him to be the one who decided to hand over our main character. So a few minutes later, boy, look how they leave while the president gives them the order to fire on the cannon, starting to tear down the mountains of rock and to fall on the ship. And Bit cares too much, since everyone in the village is there. President replied that no one in that village can let stay alive or stay on that ship, as that would generate a quarrel in mourning, and Rit for this weapon and its territory would end up being invaded. This is something he will never allow, and the best thing is that all of them be buried under that canyon, even if Beat can only cry, because he will lose his friend. While our prota throws some stones at Tehran, getting to distract him. Yevita, advantage of this, counts on the president, who manages to change it to the ground. The boy replies, which also has great agility, since it was difficult to remove the bin of not ours. The main character was Red, asking for help, even though he has been treated so badly, but our prota takes advantage of the situation and activates its armor, promising to help them, so that at that time, frees himself from the cage, secures Bill, protect him. After that it goes away, because it is time to save everyone else. So it comes with Jackie is to see him again, but our prota tells them that he could never leave them, and does not believe that she will let herself be defeated so easily, as it knows your willpower, and asks him to use everything he has, go out there. So she releases her power, getting the ship out of the wreckage, and Tyrant asks you, President, deliver to him the other bracelet, as it will sink that strength, so I have to fall with them. Although the president succeeded him, and Tadion in his new armor begins to run towards the ship, although when it starts to create a lot of shots, it is Adel who decides to face, for his will has no fear whatsoever, taking advantage of the shots he throws at her, turns them with great agility, achieving destabilizing Tyrone, and our prota is in charge of giving him final blow, achieving it in this way, destroy again the general's break. After a few hours, all prison the president and its officer, because they will not accept that they try something like this again, but the president tells them not to, will attack again, and all he wants is to abandon his territory, since Iki would be doomed they remain in this place. And Elsa accepts, she said, because she still had already been forgotten before. Minutes later, he is already in charge of that strength again to the place that would be his new home. Etsu is informed by Shuanlia and orders them to eliminate the boy who claims to come from the most beyond the wall. Along with that fort, Shu asks him to allow him to take care of it, because it will give all its power and knowledge to save their world. 15 years ago, Kai and Shu were being taken from their village by some mercenaries, something that bothered Kai, because they are treated like cattle. But Shu tells him not to fight, because in reality they are, as the adults of the village, they were handed over in exchange for not losing the village, for not being able to pay taxes. For this reason, must not create any more problems and accept their fate. So after a few hours, we're in a prison where Shu is for the quality of life and food they were given. Kai did not plan to endure this torment and is freed from handcuffs because he is going to escape, but Shu replies that be of no use, because they would end up being thieves at best. So he first asks you to do your best to stand out among all the others by achieving become a future in leaders throughout the region. At that time, time. Kai returns to reality to talk to Shu, asking him what he plans to do, but the boy remembers him, who as a promise he and applicable Prime Minister has been trying to get him expelled. For this, he must achieve a great achievement. And I understand about the 4 demons that are mercenaries experience, so with your help, you will put an end to this strength. After a few hours, 4 demons with their armor reached the base where the fortress was, overcoming its opponent and all those who sought to stop them. What a little surprises these demons, because it was much easier than they had expected, while our main character talks to the others, because looking at a map tells you easiest way to get to the wall without causing problems in morning. Oreka is by using the neutral zone already, that there are countries and regions that are declared neutral and which were not at war. Just at this moment, Bit warns them they have problems because the morning army is attacking them, and when our prota goes out to check what is happening, a device falls in front of them, sent by Rin. In this one, King Zetsu tells them that in this world, the wall is their god and all that gives them life, so to go against that purpose is to be against their world. For that reason, they have been chosen to die. So the entire army begins to move forward, but our prota asks Elsha to shoot it to one of the neutral cities while he and At will defend the ship. So they begin to ride, overcoming the soldier, and his asks the 4 demons to take action, since these soldiers are used. As a result of which, group is moving forward to the ship and spreading a product on the bait, manage to prevent it from rising. What amazes Elsa too much, who does not know what is happening, and our star together with Adel come down to get some time as the ship flies again, but when they do, they are killed by the 4, and also our prota sees that Shu arrives in front of him. This is very strange to you, since he had said it would help him get to the wall. Shu replies that in reality does what benefits him most and wishes him the best luck. This amazes our prota, but at that time, the 4 opponents tell you to prepare because they would pay them a good sum of money to eliminate it. So they begin to fight, while Rin tells Shu to move, that he had not become attached to our prota, but Shu reminds him that he is a genius and not many achieve understand it, but he has clear objectives. After a few minutes, Adel ends up being captured by one of the opponents, while the other 3 face each other, flaunt their powers and abilities where they cannot defeat them. Although for our prota, they are very, milare. They are just different elements, and he is already free of the ship by not being able to move it. Also help partner so that it can continue to fight, and in surprise, end up being attacked, but our prota tries to help them, although it continues to face the other 2 rivals, but at that time comes up with an idea and create a clone of oneself. What amazes all but think it is a projection, and when the clone starts hitting one of do not understand how this is possible, since clones should be impossible in this world, and our prota quickly create 3 more clones, so he begins fight for against all enemies at the same time. Naruto did the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, managing to destroy his bracelet and leaves them on the ground defeated. Ren still does not believe that something like this would be possible, and Shu replies that this must be to see, because our prota does not have a conviction. That is why it may have abilities unlimited by not focusing on a single conviction, but Ren does not believe the thing is possible and orders all the soldiers activate your bracelet, kill all the armor they encounter. So in a matter of seconds, our prota with his companions are hero, but our prota tells them that he will try to create more clones, but he is already very tired, while Shu watching everything that happened, and a device, all bracelet and the soldiers' weapons are destroyed. This is surprising, too much to Ren, but Shula locks himself in a ship and then goes with our informing him that wiped out all the soldiers' weapons, so it surrenders and wants to join his group. What amazes our star, who does not understand why he wants to do so, but if he replies that he understands goal, which is to break through the wall and go beyond, something that means ending the world they know here, and if you want to achieve it, would need your help. He also explains to Ren she must return with all the soldiers to warn about the betrayal of the great soothsayer. Surprise the girl, but in the end ends up being taken with all the others because they cannot leave the ship as long as Shu. Look how everyone is pointing it out, and she was already expecting it. After that fight, after a few minutes, everyone asks Shu how he can move his strength, and he tells him that they must know the strength has a flotation system thanks to the metals in the ground. So he used a liquid that prevents that flotation system to make it work, but in an hour the effect will disappear even if they are warned. There is one more enemy who would come for them, and Pip does not trust everything he tells them, since they went through the same thing recently when Tyrone pretended to be his friend and then betrayed, so they ask Shu to prove that he can be trusted, while on the other hand, Ren arrives with Kai, to whom he confesses in tears Shu has betrayed. 10 years ago in another memory, Ca and Shu were obliged by the squadron leaders to look for the Raku, but while they were doing so, Shu asked Ren to stop because it was useless, meaningless search, as it remembers the position in which saw it in the sky, and making some calculations supposedly fell further south, so together they leave in that direction, pressing too much why when they manage to find the treasure, and at that time members of the rebel army arrive to execute them because they would take that treasure, what falls not land to allow, because they had tried tried too hard, and in a matter of minutes he wipes out the entire squadron, although it is quite exhausted. When at the end he sees a large squadron surrounding them as the king approaches, even them, and the minister orders them to be eliminated, but that there tells them that they were not the enemy friend, but were the ones who put an end to the rebel, and they were the first to find the pig. The minister replies that they are also part of the slaves they have in that part of the army, and are the same of insignificant, is why it orders them to be executed. But when a soldier attacks them with a sword, you assume his arm stopping the attack, no matter what hurts it. So he tells them that they too protected the treasure, prevented it from being stolen by the rebel, what they do not deserve, be executed carrying out their duty. And the king, at that moment, orders them to stop, since it agrees with him, as the search squad. They could not do with those guys, and continued, and asks them the name of the two of them, as he sees a lot of potential, while at present, Kai can't believe that Shu will betray them, and taking a ship goes in search of them, his friend. On the other hand, Shu was guiding the doctor, who had the most knowledge on technology and achieved turn on the ship systems in Shu, because it is a system very similar to the one they have. But it tells them that the most important thing is to leave quickly, for the worst enemy arrives. Just when at that moment, Elsha warns them that they have an enemy in front of them, although he seems to be alone, but Shu knows it was who he was talking about, cause Kai stands in front of them and activates their armor. Elsha attacked the entire ship to ram him, and he is left with the astonished when she saw that they were detained, while Kai begins to fight Elsha, and with a strong blow, manages to make her armor disappear by surrendering. Kai orders him not to move that ship and scream, asking Kai where she was, but our Proto tells him that he will be next, and Shu instead talks to his friend over the explaining that it is true about his betrayal, and imagines that he wonders many things as the promise they made, but that is something that is no longer useful, because Rika will sink, and decided to go to make a place with a better future. What infuriates too much here, and seeing the main character is those who have been his friend with so many lies, but our Proto tells him that it comes from the wall of the moat there and will return home. So it begins fight, and our Proto use your clone start having an advantage, and even manages to wound him in the shoulder. Kai uses his strength to lift, and with a gust of power leaves our main character wounded on the ground, since his conviction, I would never beat him, and everyone cares because our Proto's falling, but it reminds him that he told them that a great movie was coming, and if he wants to defeat him, he must free him from his bond, since it also, none of them, he will survive, because the king has already condemned them. And at that moment, the boss orders them to call him, while Shu asks the doctor to listen carefully, because he needs everyone to do what I gave them, so that they can choose. A few minutes later, Adel and Elsa come to try to attack R, but Shu orders them to stop, since he is going to talk to Kai face, and the armor must be removed. So everyone does it, and Kane does not understand the reason to attack Reika and join the enemy, although Shu shows him the scar on his arm, as 5 years ago he highlighted in the army, in front of the king, who was most interested in him, noticing that he had earned armor. Even after 2 years, won the general title, while I had started to be an apprentice to the fortune teller, so I knew I would soon have the power, change the country, and achieve what they once dreamed of, by what they Kai injured his arm as a symbol to accept the same pain that his friend once endured to save them. Shu shows him that his chest has already healed, and Kai, annoyed, lifts it in the air, asking him what his conviction is now. Shu explains that with his help he could change the country, although he wants to change the world completely, and knows that with our Proto can do something that Kai does not understand, why he teams up with someone much weaker, and who has been declared an enemy of Rekka. For this reason, draws his sword, says verses that he will then become the enemy and must execute it, but B that moment points to warning him not to move, and annoying him. Halo knocks out in a matter of seconds, as nothing will interrupt your objective, kill his enemy friend, and our Proto runs, using that weapon to stop the blow. After the shot creates a that takes advantage of to transform itself by attracting Kai, who follows him, put an end to this problem once and for all. But at that moment a gunshot comes out of the cannons of the fort, and Kai only makes fun because she went far away from him, although at that time Ren warns him that a shot was fired near the palace, and Shu tells him that this cannon can end up with any place in this world, so if he continues with his plan to eliminate them, he will wipe out the capital and burn everything in that city, launching at that moment a second shot as a warning that Ren says he fell closer to the palace, but Kai can't believe that is capable of ending the lives of innocent people, and Shu replies that this is the only method they have to beat him, so he will do what is necessary. But Kai decides to attack, and our Proto stops him, because he must understand that his friend only does the best in your opinion. In the end, Kai decides to give up, telling Shu that from now on is its greatest enemy, while Shu replies that in reality the greatest enemy, that would be our main character. A moment later, Shu congratulates all of us for the victory, and our Proto tells them that Shu has already proven he was on their side, risking his life, so they must accept it on their side, and together go to the wall, while the doctor tells them that where falls would have known that it was only only air shots, I would probably have executed them. But Shule replies that this is why he had posted some the living near the capital and knew that if they opened innocent people at risk, fall turn away. So now they must leave as quickly as possible before they end learning of the lie they made. While on the other hand, King, upon learning that Kai could not win, orders him to be left in discipline. Yel General talks to Ren to investigate the explosions as his #1 enemy is now Chun. After a few hours, Elsa begins higher and her strength is exhausted. What everyone in the cabin can see and what everyone in the cabin. Berg, the village chief, asks him not to make an F much since they need it, but Elsa tells them that he can't stop because Rika would be following them and it is your duty to take them to a place far from their enemies. Shu analyzes the panel of that strength, an atom configuration, asks the girl to deactivate your armor so that you can rest while telling him the doctor, who has a medical room where you can check the girl's condition. So a few minutes later, are already there and are, because he was already stable enough despite so much effort. But our Prota asks Shu how they keep moving, and the boy tells him that the ship has a residual energy system which accumulates, and although they travel a little slower, will continue to move for a few more hours until something stops them later on. From what it tells them, that it is time to show them all that others that he found, as there is with good food, vehicles for mobility, and even a large arsenal with weapons, so that everyone in the village can have the amenities you never imagined and begin to adapt to living in this place. While on the other hand, Kai was in a cell resisting a large amount of weight and explains to Ren that this was his method of self-discipline in order to follow much more conviction and to be able to fight against Shu. But while in that place, person in charge of defense, Kyo, arrives by this method of Yoa. Although he explains that King had to leave for some issues, so the minister was left power and named it the new great fortune teller and will take over from Shu. But when Ren tells her that she will take care of it, finding the traitor, Kyo explains to him that on the orders of the minister they cannot go to attack. They do not know the power of that weapon. Moreover, she, being complicit and not alerting of Shu's betrayal, will be judged. What amazes to Kai, who tells them they can't do it, although Kyo replies that he has 3 days of freedom before the trial comes, but if it comes out of the city, will be executed and awaits to use those 3 days well, which she affirms to him because in his mind he knows he must prove to everyone that Shu cheated on them and that strength is not really that powerful. A few hours later, Shu indicates to all who pass through the morning territory they must create a route that allows them to stay away from the war zone. So after discussing it, Shiva path seems the most accessible, but when they advance, see someone getting in the way with armor, warning them to stop or he will destroy them, even though Shu warns them that he is no one from the morning army. But Rika's but Elsha tells him that he can't stop so fast, and the main focus was on moving it away from the ship's orbit. Although at that moment the boy attacks him and our Pro manages to dominate it with ease, buying himself because he is someone quite young, and when the boy tries to get up almost without strength, this scares our Pro because it seems to be too weak. A few hours later, are already in vehicles with food and some supplies, talking to the boy, although everyone in the village were too alert and at the sight of their partner allow them to enter. Brian tries to explain to them they were not enemies. They are convinced by our Prota, who warns them that they have food. Brian meets our stars, explaining that they all work in this profession until recently, since they were part of Walston's cattle. So he takes it to a living room where he explains that vast majority of them come from very poor villages, and I saw with the promise food and a better life, but when they saw that they would use them to be part of experiment, they were too afraid, since they achieved to see how some of his colleagues were unable to speak or move, so that one day managed to grab a bracelet and using armor drive all the guards away, managing to take control of that place. But without the resources, they have suffered from hunger and fear, come and attack them. But the doctor is, because they seem to have been used to experiment their conviction. Our main character proposes that they be joined by, because they go to the wall to cross to the other side, although Brian replies this is possible and more for them because this is the only home he knows and must protect. Although at that time one of the guys warns them that enemies are coming, so when leaving, Brian recognizes Walt, who brought a group of men to retake control. Even one of these wear armor, and Brian means they have to fight with everything they have. Shul says they should not do something like that because it is quite weak, and our could be in charge of this situation. So Shu tries to prevent them from me in a larger problem, but our Prota does not listen to him, and in one fell swoop defeats the one who wore the armor. After that, it turns over the attackers' vehicles and warns Walston, who should never come back because otherwise I would show no mercy. This scares Walston too much because it says that they are rebels who were expelled from Iki territory and flees along with all his colleagues. After a few hours, they all celebrate with some food, and our Prota is going to talk to Brian, who tells them he is not hungry, but he also can't resist and starts crying because his conviction is too weak and could not protect everyone in the village, something that our Prota understands what he is talking about with Shu because they must do so. So in the end, they leave that place. A few hours later, Walston talks to his officers, which got a pair of bracelets, and does not believe that with that they can defeat those rebels. But just at that moment, our pro, together with Shu and Beat, enter the room because they have something to talk about for a while. Then Brian watches, shocked, as Walston returns. But now he is with our Shu and Beat, who are on his side even, sees that they are wearing several more bracelets, and everyone gets scared because they do not think they can win, even if Brian tells them they can't give up and has a plan. But Burke from the ship does not understand why they would betray these kids if he is supposed to have a good reason. So after a few minutes, and by your device, it also transforms, uses a smoke grenade to blind them all and attack our main character by surprise, while several of his colleagues take advantage of the smoke to approach and steal the bracelet. So all the kids activate them and now surpass them in number to our pro, who disables your device, telling him that he is very tired after the blow. But Walston, seeing that his device was stolen, feels he was deceived and tells them not to give him the map, as they had agreed, although Shu replies that likewise people already memorized it when he saw it in that living room, so those who do not need it. This leaves to shock the nobleman, as he lost everything that had cost him so much. Yet a while later, our Prota congratulates to all the boys because they achieved with their conviction and can now defend themselves. So everyone leaves and talks to Shu that everything went according to the plan. But boy moved that they saw the bracelet, and now they can pursue their plan to reach the wall. After a few days of travel with Bill, gives some names to the armor each other, as this would help to raise confidence and the conviction of its power, what is important to maintain a higher level, and also wants to warn them that they are already being monitored. There are about 10,000 rich men that were on the edge. The neutral zone does not believe they can attack them, since the war in this area is prohibited by a treaty, although he would not be surprised ends breaking the treaty because of his desire to eliminate them. And our Prota tells them that they must destroy the wall as soon as they arrive. Just when at that moment children arrive and warn them that the villagers want to talk to them for a moment. So Elsa talks to his grandmother, who tells him that at least half of them want to leave because they are afraid of being cursed if they break the wall at the end. This is something they must understand about themselves, because they have always lived with protection of the wall and do not want to take any risks the lives of many innocent people. He already tells them the ship cannot stop at that moment. While on the other hand, Morning Homeland claims to Walston for having attacked our main character's ship and for the experiment caused, although the man tries to comment on what I was looking for, helping children, but she, crying, forbids you to do something like this again, as it is only causing them too much pain and can't commit it again, even if Walston saw that darkness lived in an unreal world. And while saying several more things about her, Commander Prats unsheathes his sword and cuts him off one arm, because no one should make the princess cry. A while later, the minister and the general even claims against Prats for what he did. She tells them it is a price from that man should pay. In addition, the wish of the Virgin must fill, bring the ship to the city in peace, and since they have not succeeded, she must be the one to take care of it herself. After a few hours of our together with all the others, with the wall that had always protected them, and some villagers pray forgiveness for what they are going to do. But our Prota, together with Adelaide, begin to attack the wall, trying to destroy it. Although regardless what type of attack to use, nothing manages to make him even a scratch. What amazes Shu, who already imagined that it would not be so easy. Ren, on the other hand, searched the places where Shu was almost all the time, because I had to find proof that he deceived them. So remembering one of their conversations, has an idea about it, and running to the base, finding an active bomb inside a box. Minutes later, the Prime Minister TAE talks General Mai, who tells that these rebels were attacking the wall and must be stopped. But TAE refuses to do so because his territory was still in danger, and at that time, Joe arrives with the information that Shu cheated on, since the explosions, no shots from the cannon, but they were explosives that he had left behind. Different points, but still, TAES refused to prevent an attack on our bower and the ship, since it was in a neutral zone, and if they attacked, would surely retaliate against them. On the other hand, Shu finishes everything, because if the armor does not work, must use the cannons, because this should work. So they start shooting at the wall, using all the power that strength had, even though a few seconds later they are astonished that they only do a little damage to the wall, despite all the power they threw. But they also see that some pipelines are opening up in the wall, starting to send a few bursts of very strong air towards Shu. Even makes the ship begin to bedded to its territory of wreck, where Shu warns them that they will be attacked, since Bei, upon learning that it was in his territory, orders his soldiers to attack. So with his armor, reaches the ship, and our Prota, together with Adelaide, begin to fight against General, which is astonished after a moment, seeing that his act cut it all on the armor of our Prota. But Adel takes the opportunity to go, I know why you must prevent any ship enter the fortress. And he already warns them to spread this substance on them that does not allow them to fly. But our prota continues to struggle against Goes and confessing to him that it does look quite strong. When the general was about to give him a very strong blow, and the armor fades, and everyone sees how a flying gay Bree takes her away, so that Pratt presents herself before everyone as an envoy of mourning, came to stop this fight. This bothers Bay because she entered Rekka's territory, and that would mean war. Pratt replies that has not touched Rika's floor, and it is just in the air, so that is why it has not. The whole treaty, what it confirmed in the agreement, said nothing about airspace, just when at that moment he is using a configuration of the ship by using the repellents to dissipate coupling smoke that had permeated them, and now they can move again. Pratt takes General Bay and lifts it into the air, warning him that they were not fighting, but it was a presentation dance, while our prota and the ship begin to move away from Rekka's territory, reaching the neutral zone again. Although at that moment Pratt's the general, asking him to fight against them in neutral zone and declare war on him in mourning. Although at that time, PAE le ordena that he does not do so, and goes and very furious decides to withdraw, while the Prime Minister knows that he should not start a war for now. Because that would be something I would do, Zetsu, when he would take control of everything. Again, as long as Pratt gives him the our prota and all the others who mourn her, invited them to offer them to go to the palace as guests, what he immediately accepts because he remembered what many people do not feel every day, but our main character tells them that then he is going to stay, as its objective is the wall, and it replies that they did almost no harm to him. So they must first talk to Grandma, since in mourning have better technology and they might know how to destroy it. Even Pratt tells them that Grandma would cooperate with them, but our prota continues to refuse. So in the end, Prasa accepts that the strength trip to the city, promising to return later, convince our star, who a while later leaves again to go to the wall, while on the other hand, Ren warns her and that she can now serve him well, because she had not been seen guilty, but it bothers him to think that Shu had already thought of all this to achieve. She was not seen as guilty for her treason, so it is determined to show you how much he is making a mistake, and Kai is glad to see the attitude she had, for when the king arrived, must go talk to him in order to take down Shu. After a few hours, all gather in the main hall where Shul, it is explained, the Principality of Mourning, was in power for 6 figures who were in charge of controlling the region, being Princess Fine, the leader of these, and an advocate peace. So I would agree, plan to break the wall, to learn more about the world. Pratt is also one of these 6 great figures of power, and Bitsy scared a little bit when they are approaching mourning because he sees the cannon, but Pratt tells them to calm down because they would not be attacked, since by orders of the secretary, only seek peace, while Elsha does not know if they had made the best decision by leaving our prota and the doctor alone in that place. Adel cheers her up because they must trust that things will work out well. A while later, are already advancing in via throughout the capital city, images to all because people there is welcome with compliments and celebration. Even upon reaching the palace, a hologram darkness welcomes you to its tells them that they know they have been through a lot, so they can stay in this place and live comfortably because they deserve it. This amazes Amor to all, because for the first time, do not see them as enemy. While in the western region, Goja puts an end to the last of the rebels, and Zetsu tells you that it already lacked the smell of battle. So now that they have wiped out these enemies, it is time to go into mourning. While again at the palace, all villagers are invited to a banquet for them to enjoy the courtesy of mourning. This amazes the youngest and also the villagers, so that all eat without limitation, while Elsa and Adels are invited to a special room where they realize that it is a bathroom and that there was the bathtub. So after talking a little bit and getting that your people can now live in mourning, Princess says goodbye to them, while Kelly would have liked to be able to talk to our main character, something Pratt's understands since they to know each other, but it is very difficult because of our prota, as long as it is on its part, was resting next to alone, and tells him that his only motivation is at this moment it was destroy the wall, and when I did I could go with the others, thank you, while the doctor replied that he has his reasons for not wanting to go to mourning, and as they speak they see something falling from above. That arrived with armor and our prota because it must go with the arrow, but he replied who must not believe he would beat him because it can fly, since his armor also shoots him. Seeing that he can't do him any harm, creates 4 clones and uses them as a needle in order to advance in the air. This amazes Pratt when our prota manages to reach through her back, capture her, but our main character says that if he dies he will destroy his armor, and now he needs me to take to the top of the wall. So Pratt accepts without any problem, since it will reveal the truth to you over the heavens of that world. After a few minutes they manage to raise enough, and at that moment some shots come from above. Surprised our prota, Pratt tells her that she too, surprised the first time for what I thought stars in the sky are devices, shoot everything that comes close. From what he explains, there is no way you can cross the wall even on land or by air, although our prota tries to jump in the direction of these devices, and Brat sustains this by telling him that it is time to go talk to Grandma, as he showed him what he needed. Know what it is now, capturing it for, taking it at high speed, when at that moment see that just a bunch appeared in the middle of the sky, so that the main character doctor is thrown into there to try to get away from Pratt, while on the other hand the two Shu meet Barney Fritz, those who are happy to see him again, so they offer you asylum in mourning so that he may live. And Shu replies that they will surely do this, provide information on Rekka's weakness, something that men confirm, but Shu tells them he would only if in return they call you how they managed to modify the bracelet to make armor able to fly, as you are sure that Pratt did not have that ability to fly, and his device received that ability artificially, but it seems that only the girl is the only one capable of receiving it. So he promises them that with his help could be mass-produced, although at that time Pratt manages to catch our Prota, telling them that it is time to leave and take him in the direction of the palace, where all villagers celebrate they will now be mourning citizens, and they could paint their village bit on their part. Sees that it was true what Shu told him, because Pratt had brought our Prota, who seemed to be unconscious, so he sends the information to Shu, tells him, two men with whom I was, that you need to get some information, plans on the ship, so it is going to come out for a moment, although you have tried to escort, because he is someone very dangerous. But Vid, when he sees that he is trying to attack them, he is beat and uses an electric shock to knock out the guard, thanking Vid for, and immediately headed to Pratt, had led to our Prota. On the other hand, in a laboratory, scientist called Mike was finishing it cool as he looks at our Prota holding on that table, but Pratt, wearing a mask, asks you to start with the process, and second our Prota awake when a discharge reaches all over his body, but of mine he says in amazement that he seems to be serious, who has no conviction, while our Prota claims Pratt, who promised to take him with the prince. She responds will actually be part of their experiment, to understand its nature, and the fact he has no conviction, because if they manage to dominate that power, they will become the world leader. And mine continues to give them electroshocks, but Shul warns they must release our Prota, and for that needs me to shoot toward button on the table. What scares the boy, because he does not know if he has such a good aim, yet it manages to button by freeing our main character, who used to put an end to the scientist, and Shu at that moment throws a smoke grenade, giving him time to be able to flee, and our Prota thanks them for saving him, but Pratt follows it, and our Prota begins fight against her in a duel of swords, although in a rapid movement, our Prota manages to destroy his mask, seeing in amazement that it was not Pratt's fate. Dino, what is Dark, who has a very terrifying look, although after a few seconds, is once again the same defender of peace. Then his eyes are injected with fury, telling them that all those who saw their real face must die. At that time, Shu uses some smoke grenades to get away from it, but darkness pursues them, totally unhinged, by telling them that they must die, so that the main character defends his teammate, while Beat tells him that they must flee, because if they get to do something to the teacher, everyone else who is in the palace would pay for it, so that again, begin to run, while the teacher, injected in anger, he replies that they must always die. A few seconds later, everyone thinks about how he is able to do it, since the Chu says it must be an ego art in the dark. But at that moment, Pratt appears and asks, fine, that allows her to take charge of what surprises kids when they lean in, kissing one of the slippers, and with this, Princess accepts, leave them to them, so that Shu tells him it looks like I was trying to hide a big secret, and Pratt tells them that all those who know the secret of darkness must die, as she follows his orders, and our Prota asks it get ready, so it activates armor and protects them, and then leave full speed. This amazes Pratt, communicates with Hans, giving notice that they must initiate plan, while the teacher use a passageway secret that leads her to her room, where and when looking in the mirror is the same as before, and can only cry because he lost role again. Ultra sees that Atelier is planning leave and asks him why he does it. Girl replies that he cannot leave our star alone on that mission, so knowing that everyone in the village are gonna have a great place to live will be calmer, but Elsa replies that she also needs someone's support, because she can't do all that alone, nor lead so many people. Just when at that moment, see as in the whole city, our Prota was moving and dodging Pratt's attack, who beats him thanks to its ability to fly, and our Prota tells the kids can't clone because it must protect them, so it increases the size in one of his hands, capturing Pratt. She throws an electric shock so powerful that it deactivates armor in our Prota and tells him that he must die for knowing the secret of friendship. Just when at that moment a vehicle arrives at high speed, and Brad is furious to see that his brother has returned, but Shu understands that the doctor alone was the brother of Pratt, who claims him for appearing after leaving the presidency, but alone he tells her that he understands her annoyance already and accept the blame that the princess now have that personality, but for that reason was that he left as he was looking for a cure problem that she had, and is sure that with the help of Shu along with power of our Prota to ending Brexit without harming users, I would find a cure, but everyone must work together. And Pratt refuses because he will not fall to his deception, because his order was to put an end to the traitors, so it only activates a light that blinds Pratt, and when he regains his sight, sees that they escape, although they will still get caught, because all those who come on the ship will now be his prisoner. After a few hours, our Prota and the others were already in a hut of the city, where the doc promises them that no one could find them, since it is also Pratt would not risk sending a large group of soldiers, because it would slip the secret that they only know two of them from what he explained, how it all happened since several years ago when the former king died, initiated the succession process where they had 40 candidates to be the aspiring to the throne, and finally was one of the last in opportunity to win the throne. Although the girl did not seem to care, because she preferred freedom, be able to practice and play with prats even. One day they were flying in a paraglider, something relatively new in the city, where he wanted to improve his mobility with respect to the other rich city, even though he was not informed of this, and when he saw something approaching through the sky shot, causing prats along with Princess, fell to the ground. Although fortunately, only minor injuries, and after a few days, fine, came the next successor, but it was at that time when they saw the changes in his personality. So he called Prat to reveal his personality. Aggressive toward, because in that case, could not govern. Brad refused to do so because she would protect the princess, no matter what I have to do. Something that confirmed when their food was poisoned for wanting to reveal the secret to the other ministers, so that the doctor decided to escape from the city and go far away, feeling betrayed by his sister, who was willing to take her life if I did something against prostitution. But in his mind, he always tried to find a way to be able to cure what caused fine. And says that the next day he is going to the city because he has a plan in mind. Atreka King returns, and after speaking publicly with Tae, decides that his accumulated treasure would be used to start a war, then goes with Kai, who is astonished to feel the presence of the king. This one thanks him, training so hard, and it is time to teach him something. So a few hours later, are already in an arena where everyone has been waiting to see the execution of the rebel leader. The West was in the middle of the sand, and the emperor was led by his guard in front of man, who challenges him to be allowed to fight with honor, because if it eliminates it, handcuffed would have no honor as a warrior. And Zetsu is just having fun listening to what he says. So he gives the order, and the handcuffs are released. He even give him a bracelet, while the king orders him to fight him, because if he wins, may hold the title of the emperor, and everyone in the arena can't believe it. Kai can only smile, confident as he knows his king, while the rebel activates his armor, and Zetsu apologizes because it does not appear to be very strong, and at that moment prepares its device by astonishing to the rebel, because he will fight with only one weapon, with a few simple threats. But in a matter of one attack, Zetsu gets to cut part of the armor, challenges the bandit to fight with everything he has, up at the same time the maximum power within it, and with fast movement, moves the threads at such a speed that it cuts in pieces the rebel's armor, impacting here and why it waits to be able to reach the same level of power, defeating a person effortlessly, while Setsu tells everyone in town the time has come of dominating the world. So they will begin the journey into morning. Jika and gets excited because there they would have their revenge against Shu. Mientras tanto, all those who came in the fortress are locked up and take their bracelets with, something that frustrates Bert, because no matter where they go, end up being betrayed. Although the girls try to encourage others, while the teacher feels guilty because of him, now all these people were locked up. Bratz replies that he should not feel guilty because it has all been her and her brother's fault, but promises that he will not leave, that no one else will ever hurt her again, since from that day on, made a firm decision, just when at that moment are warned that King of Reka is requesting them, so they go to the living room where a hologram of Zetsu is projected, and it tells them direct that in 2 days the virgin will begin in mourning so that city can surrender or fight. Astonishing minister, because it is too sudden, but at that moment finds personality changes and smiles with malice, because if Zetsu what he wants is war, he will have not unless he regrets it and decides to. Kneeling at his feet, this leaves him shocked everyone by the change in attitude he has, and Setsu did not expect to see that reaction. A few minutes later, from me receives Call of Darkness, who asks him to be happy because they would start the war, and you need as many bracelets as you can. Astonishing the man because this request is too sudden, while Fine warns that the war, it will be in 2 days, and if he makes any excuses he will die. So Bratz try to ask him to rest. She refuses, ordering him to prepare all for war, although for a moment it is the same as before. But his aggressive personality regains control, because they will not win the war, like a weak fly for what Baran, when he tried to oppose his orders, because they must fight, and Bratz is upset because that should not happen at time. After a few hours, the announcement is made in the city, gives about the beginning of the war, what causes different opinions in all citizens, and only get some information together. So it returns with our Prota, and also with all the others, warning them the war is about to begin. Shul says he sees several problems, and one of them is that they were followed just when at that moment Fritz, wearing armor, destroys the hut, try to catch them, but when they flee, see Fritz leaving, and in the midst of the smoke, hears that scares only. So you ask Dissonant, so how do you know you were in town? She responds that there is nothing that your boss can't find out, and you must go see him. So he he accepts while Shu asks her what is happening, but alone replies that to the man to be visited is the most dangerous of all morning, and it is best not to contradict him. A few minutes later, enter the palace where everything seemed quite strange and gave of a great hall. Not so. The one who alone calls Rudolph the Supreme Electro, surprising Shu because he knew about humor that it was one of the six and the person in charge of choosing who would take crown, while Rudolph remains to see that the group has arrived and is speaking to our, as it has a lot of sensitivity about how he came into this world, but our Proto tells him not to like it. Something he has, because he has been able to notice something, is that you can feel the feeling of all the inhabitants of this world, but you do not feel anything in it, and it does not end. To convince him what infuriates Rudolph, and a burst of power is released of his body by sending our Proto to a wall. But Rudolph returns to his form, telling him that they say, looks like he has one of the bracelets mixed in your body, and that is why it is so powerful, coming to the point that he himself does not even know how strong it can be, and that is why they join in pleasure and food to make your body lazier, thus not end up destroying the world, even though this time his assistant warns him that he has another guest, and it was Minister Pete who arrived at the site. So Rudolph warns him they are only guests here, and assumes that he comes to warn you about the war, but he replied that he already had that information because fine, notified you earlier, since she was the one who chose her for a reason. For the other candidate, what amazes to all, because that is what those who were at the bottom were the other heirs who are now served. But Piat tells them that it is much better than pity of death they should go through by not being elected, even if they are not elected. Rudolph tells them that he will still wait for the own will result be the best, because it has part of his blood, which they use to save her. This amazes too much alone, because I did not know this information, and that is why she suffers from this problem. But Rudolph tells them that he does not know what could happen, and just wants the princess to live, while Piat warns them that they will also should care about the others in the village, as they would be executed on order, because right in the hall of the palace, he is already notified by Fine that he must fight death against Pratt, all because they need me to die, so that in this way, someone else could have control of that fort, and thus it could become in their best weapon, and the one they could finish off Rekka, but also warns him to El that if she opposes fighting, each of the villagers would be executed until she decides to do so, as there is also the option of swearing allegiance to him. But for that, I would have cut off her legs and use her like his weapon leading that fortress, while our main character with his colleague going to try to save the princess. But at that time, several armors attack them, and our Proto transforms because he has no choice. On the other hand, Jazz can only be thwarted for the decision you must make, but knows he cannot leave all his colleagues and friends to die. So he agrees to fight, even though she wants me to forget others, and she wins. What bothers too much in the dark, because of the demands it has, and Brat's lay where they could accept, because it is not like I can win anyway. What is Fine since then accepts the deal, and the two girls start fighting, being a rather even duel at the beginning, although after a moment, Brat mocks Elsa's lack of practice. For his part, tries to escape from these armor, cannot to do so, and knows that his goal is to save Elsa and the other. So he concentrates, because just as it could have been cloned, knows it can fly. At that time, everyone is astonished when they see that our Protat wants wings on his armor, and rises in seconds towards the palace, Dio, where Pratt had already managed to surpass Elsa, and the darkness orders him to finish off the girl as quickly as possible. But before I can charge a powerful attack, our Prota impacts Pratt, telling him not to take advantage of others, and that they have a duel pending. What bothers teacher, but Elsha asks our that it does not interfere, because he will save the villagers. He defeats Pratt, Fine regret of his promise, and orders them to be executed, while Pratt asks him to stop, because he must do nothing else, because it would soil his honor as part of the tribute. So it decides end the duel against Elsa, and our main character replies that it will help you. That is what he wants, so that at that time transforms in a sword with which he will be able to fight, and a dirty shadow, because that is something that has never been seen before, but knows that only our Prota can change the laws of everything they know. So Elsa begins fight, wielding our Prota as a sword that uses thrusters to give it more speed, getting in a moment take by surprise Pratt's, and with a cut it goes through it. Scared Fine too much, who returns to his personality, calm and crying, think die. Pratt still alive, because it is true what they said about our main character. Just when at that moment I found her, is once again controlled by his other personality, tells her that she will take care of, or what it orders them to give him a bracelet, and Shu tells him that he must calm down, because Rudolph was to blame for giving him some of his blood. This surprises Pratt's too much, but the snow does not accept anything from them, so it activates armor, and while the real Fine does it, begins an internal struggle against his other personality, as there are many innocent people in danger. He will no longer live in fear of his other version, but it is time to send it away and never cause any problems again. So using the power of the bracelet, his whole dark personality, and that conviction that the disturbed will be trapped in this place, this is too surprising to Shu, because I did not expect he could get that, while Fine apologized with everyone for what we did, and because of problems it has caused them, as Rudolph watches, excited about what is happening, and only feels too much affection. A moment later, teacher asks them to leave a meeting, because it was the best so that they would not suffer the consequences of the war, something that many do not want, because it was unthinkable to leave the princess alone. While Elsha tells him that they will fight as allies against Tree because they are already being pursued, in hopes that they can win. The next day, Setsu gives him a speech of motivation for his troops, because would initiate the docking against Morning, and they must give everything for their king. Even he is the first to come out fully motivated. What some start talking about Zetsu. He did not like the way he treated her at all. Affection. While Shu was together with Demai, who was trying to finish his experiment, but Shu realizes that he was looking for manufacture artificial arms, something that is too interesting because it has made many advances with technology and modifying some of the data they have. Get he for these artificial bracelets to work. This thrills too much the scientist, who does not realize that his some bracelet, while fine, meets with Elsha and Adela as they begin to think in using his other personality to take charge of the war, as it is not believed to be war enough to be able to win, even though he has already been promised that everything will be fine if they focus on winning, because they have big weapon and the support of our main character. After a few hours, they meet. All leaders with impunity plan their answer, even though Shu tells them where it is more. Zetsu will probably attack them, because surely will seek to demonstrate that it has the power to control everyone, so he will attack them at their strongest base. What amazes to all, because they had not thought of something like this, despite the fact army of Rika is 3 times older, must be able to surpass it with their technology. After a few hours, all the soldiers begin to, and some are very afraid and even only rejected by Bert, knowing that he had deceived them and never told them the truth. Kratz arrives with his brother, because it still has the opportunity to serve the grandmother, but alone. Responds to her, could never do so, since he has felt guilt since the day he caused that wound, although Pratt replies that for this reason should demonstrate that what feels is true, and fight with everything for the homeland. Then, of a while, our prota was on the strength, and Shu approaches him by telling him this whole problem is because of him, since he arrived, altered the balance in the 2 kingdoms. So he proposes something to you, which is to become in the Emperor of Ingaline, because once the war is over, both kingdoms will be greatly weakened, and if it takes Morning technology, together with Rekka's willpower, fulfill his wish, put an end to this wall. Woodsar Star but tells him who must first wipe out the greatest of their enemies. This time, since it will surely, Kai would attack in a different area from the other. On the other hand, in a cannon of Morning arrives Zetsu, together with their army, and begin to attack the defenses. Kratz, together with his squadron, is in charge of the defense of the a great war that Sepp knows about would define the strength of the 2 kingdoms. After a while, the fortress is attacked by surprise, and Shuya expected a trap Kai for what they see as his friend's squadron appears at front, and our proto warned Adel that he will take care of Kai. But before he could arrive with his armor, Reindeer face set, because she will make him pay because it is her fault. Shu abandoned his best friend, so it falls. It continues its way to the fortress, and the tells him that he must fight, but Shu does not allow it because they need the ship to keep moving. So guiding Vid and the others, they manage to shoot at the vehicle that they were trying to approach, while Kai begins to approach, but our prota manages to free himself. Ren, using some clones to distract her, and with their wings begins to fly in the direction of again toward Kai, so by surprise impacts the general, capturing him, and raises his take advantage of this to start firing with cannons, although he is, because his friend continues to resist despite the impacts, while our prota continues to hold Kai to lift him into the air and shoot cannons repeatedly. This makes much more angry at Kai because his friend is not there, facing him and fighting with honor, although our prota responds, which was exactly what I was doing, because he planned everything in advance, and is honoring its intelligence as it is now surpassing it. But Kai does not accept what he is doing, because Shu is someone different, and at that time, our prota prepares his hand for finish off Kai's armor. Just when at that moment, Ren interposes himself by receiving the full impact, but still, she does not leave our prota alive, as it has several explosives to detonate, kill him, so that our prota disables your armor, taking by surprise to the girl and removes the detonator, while Ri does not use a knife, try to beat him, only through the hand of our prota, who tells him he can't believe fell so low using a trap like this one, because if what he wants to show honor must be useful, and not to think giving his life in such a low way. After that, returns to his armor, and with the help of Atle, manages to finish in seconds with all the other members of the squadron. Even Kai's armor is destroyed, and he laments that he was unable to beat Shu. On the other hand, the soldiers of Setsu cannot advance because of the defense of Prats and his army, so Setsu something decides decide to intervene and use your weapon, launches a powerful attack that takes unsuspecting Pratt. But Zetsu will only wait for the nurse to come in person, and at that moment he is warned that Kai has been defeated, for what he orders you to all your soldiers to rest, as the next day they will continue the attack. After a while, bandage the wound in the hand to our and Shulei explains everything that had happened in morning on the operation of armor, since they are the particles of conviction what makes up breaks, and for that reason it is that when it is Deruida, carriers are usually converted into particles destroyed, although still is investigating why our prota only manages to destroy the armor but assumes that has to do with it and that it carries armor without levels of conviction like all the other. But most importantly is that with the wound in his hand will not be able to use attack with which it destroys armor, and if you face Rika you will surely must destroy all the conviction of his opponent, which means that you must eliminate them. At the same time, the meet general, as they must devise a plan, who has already thought about it, because they must take advantage of the strength to recoil enemy troops and make them go through a canyon where they would attack the mountain to try to defeat them, something that already the Iki region attempted with the villagers on their way to the fort. But at this moment they are warned that a princess is gathering at the entrance of the palace, because they demand that they stop the war. So the teacher from a hologram he speaks people by giving them the motivation and hope to face this war, as it promises to mourn will manage to win and they do not have to worry about anything. While on the other hand, Goji were training Dio, Aaron, who gets frustrated in not being able to overcome it and demands that he use his real weapon, because if you want to be stronger, should not be afraid of injuries, and with this strength weapon prove that he can take revenge. Zetsu approaches curious about those words and decides to measure the girl's conviction. So using his cane he sends to capture her and then throw her into a river flows, surprise the girl, but remembering Shu's betrayal picks up strength to sustain itself from a root and not give up. While Kai gets upset, some soldiers made fun of her because the well-known invincible general was defeated by that fort. The next day, troops at front begin to repel Rekka's attack, while our prota and strength continue to advance through the rear guard stealthily. But Beat warns him that he has an opponent, and it is precisely Balls who refuses to surrender so easily. But Shu sees that his friend is still quite wounded and is not in a position to fight, so Atlas launches an attack, taking advantage of the advantage, and with the help of our prota quickly overcome Kai, which resists being beaten, but our main character, with a kick combo, sends it through the air and let Fortress fire with cannon. Playing in this way, Kai was quite weak, so that Shu tells them that the other soldiers take care of Kai, as she has lost her will, so they should focus on their plan. As they begin to lead the enemy for the place where they had planned, although I was quite nervous while fighting, because I was afraid Zetsu would show up by surprise, and again it impacts her. A minute, Aretsu is notified that he has no answer to Kai, and that the strength is attacking them by the sword. So they begin to be cornered, but Zetsu, supposedly, they would soon be back on the ship, and they see that Ren has already arrived in front of him. As she explained, who understood that his fear of dying with grief, being betrayed, was the one who tied him up. Also because he realized that the tape we made was paper capture her, but she felt as if she were Mexican, and now his fear has completely disappeared. This Zetsu, who gives him a bracelet, hoping that it will prove to him that what he says is true. Balls, for its part, is capture by the soldier, and can't believe it all ended that when I had promised so many things between him and his friend. But at that time, soldiers are eliminated, and Ren comes from the sky with new armor. Also tell Kai, who managed to overcome her fear and unlocked a better one, conviction, so he will be your wing and will be able to fight together with Shu, and replies that she must do it alone, because he will not use a woman's power, as that would show all his weakness. But Ren gets upset, telling him that this attitude was just a pride I had accumulated, and that he had to learn from Shu, who used every possible means in order to win, since it does not matter if she is a tool, one must use it, and honor him like a true warrior of his weapon. Even annoyed to see him so weak, planning to hit him, but Kaide has an impact on far as he changed his conviction to arrogant and stands up. Herman fighting, so Ren raises it in the air, and combine getting that now Kai has wings on his armor and will take it upon himself, put an end to Shu's trail. Teacher, on her part, it is warned that they already have the armor enemy in play indicated, but in order to bury it, need part of Pat's squad to retire, because they are in the middle of the army enemy, and if it activates explosive, would also be buried. Although Pratt's is beginning to be surpassed by the enemies and is saved by a shot from the fort, while our protagonist does not understand why she is so unfocused, and at that moment they see that an armor passes very close by, being that there are those who rise again about them by telling them who are not the only ones who can dominate the sky, and our main character to fight again, and he accepts without any problem. Shu is that Kai merged with Ren, and that would be a big problem. But our prota tries to hurt Kai, who even defends himself from a cannon shot, avoiding in this process being hurt, and saying to have the advance of the fortress on impact Elsha, and thus remove El Control de la Nave as it slams her against a mountain. Shu, upon seeing this, can no longer use the cannon, and sees how Kai flies in front of them by telling him to see what happened. Although Shu tries to stop him because he was his enemy, Kai denies him, as he felt too much hatred and resentment clouded his thoughts. But now he knows that his real enemy is us, and will be the one to eliminate. In this way, will put an end to dreams of Che, will make him pay for his betrayal. So it goes to where our prota, challenging him to fight to the end. This is something that our prota accepts without any problem, and tries to use his most powerful attack. But at that time, begins to feel a great pain in his arm. Does not allow you to move him for all the damage he has had. And this is the end of the Minuta. War are happening. They want the second part. You know, my people.